Long day lay me low.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? Hopefully we'll trickle more people in, but welcome to those watching on the replay and those joining us relatively soon. We got a great one for you today. I'm very excited about this one. I'm a fan of these people, so it'll be a good one. It'll be a lovely one, and you can't have a lovely one. Did I hit the like button? Sometimes I don't. Yeah, but you can't have a lovely one without the great, amazing Angela Curry. What's going on, Angela? You're muted.
I
Great.
was.
There you go. Fantastic. Off to a banger of a start.
I think you called me lovely. Did I hear that correctly?
In a general sense of the word.
Yes. I'm
the chat.
Anyway, I will say who we are having on today. I think he draws fantastic boobs. So.
Well, so does she.
She does too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got more than one.
That's true. That's right.
That's true. We got more than one. Hey, look at that. We finally have a chat.
Hey,
what's up, Luke?
Hey,
Good to
Luke.
see you. Yeah. So without further ado, I'm going to click everybody in. Got a full house. Well, not really a full. Almost a full house. I can only have 6 people on because they canceled StreamYard. We're going to bring them in. We got the cat. We got the Bill. And we got the Steve.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, everybody. How you guys doing?
What's up?
Awesome.
What's up today? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I asked Bill because Zen launched. I'm like, hey Bill, you want to come on? And he's like, sure. Can I invite everyone that has ever worked on any project ever? I'm like, sure. Let's do it.
Let's do it. We're all here. It's a barbecue.
That's right. That's
Whoa.
right. What? You don't like barbecues, Angela?
No, I said let's go. No, I'm down. As long as it's
okay,
like barbecue
cool.
in the sense of Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually the Pacific Northwest, excuse me. Barbecue means hot dogs and hamburgers.
Oh, there you go.
Really, a barbecue is like ribs, and that's a barbecue.
Yeah.
Cookout is the other. Anyway,
yeah.
Make sure
we're talking about a Southern barbecue. Barbecue.
Real.
That's a real barbecue right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to have the pulled pork. If you don't have the pulled pork,
I'm up for both parties. This is good.
Yeah. I love pulled pork sandwiches. They're so good.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, we have the Mission restaurant or whatever.
Oh yeah.
That place is delicious.
Yep.
Oh
yeah. When I went to Baltimore Comic Con, like me, Shay, Cy, Nefarious, like Global Frequency, we all went to Stipley and Vaughn. We all went to Mission Barbecue.
Nice.
Here in the LA area, in Burbank specifically, there's a place called Wood Ranch. I think it's a chain, but it's best barbecue among the best barbecue I've ever had. Wood Ranch. If you're ever in lovely downtown Burbank, you go there. You won't be dissatisfied.
Yeah, it might be a Western franchise, if anything.
Yeah,
right. I've never heard of it. Yeah,
that's great.
Speaking of a Western franchise, we have a chat. I don't know how they relate, but we're working.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, this. Welcome to the Food Network, everyone. I know you can hear comics, but
you know what? Hey, I've always said
we're going to talk about barbecue the whole time.
It's the great unifier. If people have nothing in common, you always have food.
And food means love. I learned that from a Black woman. So
I've noticed that. Yeah, people like food.
Can I say that, Jason?
Yeah. Well, that's why there's something called the Food Network. There's an entire damn network just devoted to food.
Wonderful. It's wonderful. Luke, as earlier, he did say you're hallucinating, Angela. Jason doesn't compliment, which is true. So thank you for bringing you back to reality. Henry Bemis is here. Hail, he's dropping links. Thank you so much. Cheers, some person.
Cool.
Hail, some person. Glad to see you.
What's going on, some person?
Let's see. I'm making my way. Cool. Wait, what's he saying?
Nice.
A lot of barbecue in the Carolinas. Yes, there is. I like actually. I have a wing place here. They have a Carolina barbecue. I love that. And they have those wings, and I get those.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I lived in South Carolina.
Yeah, my aunt lives in North Carolina. So
yeah. I grew up in a place called Goose Creek, which I thought was an episode of Dukes of Hazzard, but it's actually a place. That's where I lived.
Might have heard of Goose Creek. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe
right
it's just one of those names.
Right next to Charleston. So it's.
Okay. That's
yeah.
probably
Oh,
why.
yeah, Charleston. I've been to
Yep,
Charleston.
yep.
There's some really good barbecue in the state of Georgia too. I got to tell you.
Yep.
Yeah. So if everybody's watching now, we're on the replay. You don't hear anything we have to say about food. You can go. There's a comic actually that they have. You can click the link in the top of the chat or in the description below and just go check it out. And we
Yes,
get,
indeed.
buggery
Absolutely.
Scott likes to say to me, which he doesn't ever say to me. But yeah. So like I said,
Death metal. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone's still talking about the bar. We'll get to the everything else eventually.
What else is there?
Southern California to North Carolina, there's what have you discovered? A pig picking was. What pig picking was.
Pig picking, all right.
Yeah, we have because I live in Northeast Ohio. There's not much Southern like cooking. We actually have a pretty big in my area, a big Hispanic population. So there's a lot of Mexican food and stuff. My ex-wife's Mexican, so
gotcha.
We go to those, my mom and I would go to those chain restaurants, that are Mexican American and they're great. But I'm like, yeah, this isn't real Mexican food. When you go to like those like mom and pop run like little huts of a restaurant, and you get like the actual like it's so delicious, man.
Well, see, Jason, we got that in common. My former is also Mexican. My mom is Puerto Rican, so Kat is actually so Latin that she looks Asian.
Yeah, right.
So she's half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, and about 12% Irish on my dad's side. So
now that's a combination.
That's a combination.
Yeah,
now we know why Kat's art gravitates towards manga.
You see, that's
a little bit, yeah, because she's completely Asian.
We actually know how to make an Asian person from scratch.
Jeez.
No, she's awesome. Yeah, we love her.
But we are here for a book, and we'll get to the book.
Nice segue.
Well,
I know, right?
Hey, we can keep talking about food.
It goes from me and the 23andMe commercial to comics.
Well, the thing is, like I'm like most Americans. I'm a total mutt. You know what I mean?
Same. Yeah, that's it. That's us.
Yeah, my lineage is just whatever people.
Not a melting pot for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So I know I have a lot of. There's more German in me than anything else. So no sprechen Sie Deutsch, but it's a unique heritage for sure.
I thought we were German. My last name is Mouse. Turns out I'm Puerto Rican and Irish. So go figure.
Yeah. It's amazing how that works. And the funny thing is, like Luke actually messaged me because I did find out my table number for Heroes Con
right
last night, and on the listing on the website, my name is there. And he messaged me. He's like, "Did you get your table number?" He's like, "I finally found you," and it said Jacob Bascom. So apparently there's more than one Bascom going to Heroes Con.
Gotcha.
So common.
You see, right? Right. It's like Smith.
It's like, yeah, man, it's everywhere. I'm telling you. But Mouse is a very unique last name. Now, okay, we have to get that up. Is it Catherine Mouse or is it specifically Cat Mouse?
Yes.
Okay. Oh my gosh, you never put that together.
Well,
never ever until you said it out loud. Wow.
Because I think that is fantastic.
I do too.
You named your child with your last name being Mouse. You named your child Catherine to short.
I named her name is Catherine Taylor Mouse. She didn't start going by Cat until she became a teenager, and that's when I accidentally found out that she completely made herself marketable.
It is so Cat.
And it was so by chance when I was younger too, because there was just like 3 Catherines in like 6th grade. And so one of us took like a cat, and then I was just like, wait a minute. And then somebody pointed it out, and I was like, oh, I'll be Cat. I'm Cat Mouse. And every English teacher has loved me since then. Because they can just yell that down the hallway.
The funny thing is, it's the most simplistic, brilliant thing as far as marketing goes. Like, it's so good. Like, it's like every now and then somebody does come across, like somebody has a name that just pops. It just stands out.
Oh, it's a done. My favorite thing was actually we went to a live showing of the Game Grumps, and when she was on stage, because first of all we got lucky enough that she was actually on stage with. They have a really cool show. They do a great comedy show, And the fact that they never called her Cat, they always called her by her full name because they loved her name so much.
Yeah.
It was always Cat Mouse, Cat Mouse.
Wow.
So it was pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, and it's like growing up, people did call me Jay. You know, it's just shorter. You know, people do shorten things up. Like Bill. I don't know if your real name is William, but you know, people call you Bill.
Yeah, it totally is. Yep.
Well, the other thing is, I know like Inkspots' name is William, so that's a Bill. But I know nobody ever calls him. We all call him Inkspots. But you got Billy Basco, who I hang out with all the time. So that's another Bill.
Right.
We hang out with William Perdomo once in a while. So it's another Will. Like, and now, you know,
Yep.
so it's like Will or Bill. Like, there's a bunch of them that I know and kind of hang out with, which is funny. And I'm glad they all go by different names. So it's kind of fortunate for me. Like, Ink goes by, we all call him Inkspots. He did, you know, his name is, but he goes by William, and we often hang out with Billy Basco, who goes by Billy. He doesn't go by Bill. So
exactly. Yeah.
And like I said, people shorten things up. Like I don't like. It's just the way funny names work, and sometimes you come across the name that is like know, just totally marketable. Like,
I got
like
the same.
Stephen Platt, Splat. Like,
right.
Just,
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So so you three, you're here.
Yeah,
You made it.
We are.
So we have a book here, obviously, but let's get into the first off, Steve.
Yeah.
How I like to ask, and we'll go around all three of you.
Yeah.
How did you get into like collecting comic books, and what do you know your first comic book you ever got?
Yeah. I was about 7 years old. I was visiting my maternal grandmother in the Bronx, New York, and my folks needed something to distract me, keep me quiet. So underneath the elevated train track in the boroughs of New York, there's something. There's newsstands underneath the L, as they call it. So they picked out this comic, Superboy, for me. Right. Well, I opened up that book. I see this kid that I identify with, and I see him wearing these bright colored spandex stuff, and he's a hero. And I instantaneously had this love at first sight experience with comic books. And from that day forward, I was obsessed with comics, and I still am many, many, many decades later, and I'm making comics.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience.
Yeah, it's I like asking this question because comics are very unique. Like especially when all of us I think were growing up. It was a nerdy thing. It was the outlier thing. Like you didn't, so I don't know whenever, age gaps are, we all have a different age gap. So I don't know when you were collecting, if it was also kind of a, like you nerd and, you get punched or it was more accepted. I don't know.
I never got that.
I never did either. But.
Yeah. It was never like a big, not like in comic strips where you got the guy coming up and kicking sand in your face or something like that. And, nerd,
like, I mean, we were.
I totally got that.
Okay, like I didn't get that, but we were the nerds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We were definitely the nerds. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt.
Yeah. Well, look, if you get obsessed with comic books, you are de facto a nerd.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Kat, do you remember how you got started all of this weird journey of collecting and buying and reading?
This one.
I'm shocked, I tell you.
Dad. Yeah,
I can't.
I'll let Dad tell his story first because it segues into mine.
Let's do it.
Oh, I mean, I got into comics. We're a Navy family. I grew up as a Navy brat, right? So they're dragging me to the exchange and to the commissary, and that was just complete boredom. So I would wander my way to the magazine rack, as it were. And that's where I was finding like my first like Spider-Man comics and Marvel comics and stuff like that. The thing that really got me wanting to draw sequential art though was actually picking up Cracked magazine.
Ooh.
So we had Mad magazine, but for some reason there was an artist that I loved, John Severin, and he was drawing all the parodies of TV shows and movies that I was actually watching at the time. So that's what kind of like gravitated me towards his work. And then me trying to that's what made me want to tell sequential pieces of art as opposed to just drawing things I saw in movies. I'd watch Star Wars and I go home and draw X-Wing fighters and R2-D2 all day, right? So But as far as like telling a joke, trying to make parodies of like the shows that I was watching, Knight Rider, Star Wars, Star Trek, he was actually like in tune with exactly what I was watching at the time. So that's what got me into actually drawing comics and coming up with stuff. Yeah.
And that's an odd one because, like you said, most people would have looked at Mad Magazine and even like regular comics. You went it was Cracked, which was like
it was Cracked. It was I'm an outlier for the outlier. So and usually people, when they have like their origin thing of what got them into comics, they're usually like quoting Kirby and they're quoting like the classics, and you can't argue with those guys. Those were guys that were like Elvis to us. It's like but that was the thing that got me specifically. So, and as far as actually me looking forward to getting the next issue and me trying to figure out how does he draw a leg and a foot and a thing and to make it dynamic or whatever and make it funny. And then I was getting more into Spider-Man and Batman comics, on top of everything, But I'd sit at home, if I watch an episode of Dukes of Hazzard, I would be drawing the General Lee, but I'd draw it as a monster truck. It's like always mixing things up and trying to make them funny or different or outlandish,
That's cool. And so then that influenced you, Kat, and you were like, oh, or did he kind of like you're doing this, and he pushed it.
I started a sweatshop early.
For me, it started because he was drawing comics the entirety of my existence already. Yeah. So when I was really, really young, I would be like underneath, because he had a really tall drawing table. So I would be like nestled underneath, like in my little cave of pillows. And I would be playing a game, like listening and just like hearing the little scritch of the paper. But what got me to actually start getting into comics in general was actually like a bunch of surrounding media, because Dad would always have tons of manga everywhere. And so I remember one of the first ones I started flipping through was one of those like huge preview books that you can get from Japan. Everything's in Japanese. I can't read anything, but just seeing everything in like that newsprint paper was just so nice.
Oh yeah.
And then I got into Ghost in the Shell, and then I got into Robotech, and I got into like the surrounding of like everything there. But I think the first like normal Western comic I picked up was probably Teen Titans. In the 2010s version.
Oh wow.
That one was absolutely amazing. And then Dad started playing the Batman Arkham series game from Rocksteady, and that one just solidified like love for Batman from day one. And then it got me into all the rest of the Batman comics, into everything into DC, and then it got me into just the rabbit hole of finding all these other characters and just going into storytelling.
I with me, it was mainly Western stuff and manga. When we were growing up in my family, like it was always like, the Westerns of the Thors, Spider-Man, stuff like that. And manga was always like, that's not comics. Like we were just like, oh, that's not comics. That's just whatever. And now, like, and I always, what's that, Angela?
That was not me.
But
not guilty as charged.
Well, but like as you grow up, you learn things, and you're like, well, that is comics. Like manga is comics. It's the same form. It's just they read it differently. That's the only difference. It's like it's flipped, and they treat it as a more of a consumable medium and a respected one at that. I think.
Yeah.
So it's something we can learn.
Oh yeah, the American industry has a lot to learn from manga, because when it comes to the actual physical manga, it outsells Western comics by a country mile. Yep. Like they actually digest it, and over there they just call it comics. They don't really call it manga anymore. That's for American consumers to know the difference.
Yeah, and there, I think one thing, like especially with me, and I don't know about all of you, is like growing up, like my first book was a Thor book, and it was it was Ron Frenz, very Jack Kirby-ish. And so I was like, okay, well, that's kind of the stuff. You look at Neil Adams, you look at all these people, but I started to gravitate then towards more stylized stuff and stuff like that. And me, like, you got the typical ones, like the McFarlanes and the Liefelds, the and stuff like that. But and I think that's one thing, when people see manga, they tend to think this all kind of looks the same. And at first glance, maybe, but once you start flipping through it, you see all this crazy detail they put into certain aspects of things. And I think one thing is the faces. People get like, oh, the faces all look identical. It's like you got to look past certain aspects of it, and they're actually not identical.
They do. You really do. Yeah.
And we have that issue here in the States too, with certain people just get popular. So
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, without a
certain
doubt.
certain genres tend to have like they gravitate towards a little bit of a house style
Oh yeah.
without really meaning to. But you know, if you look at 80s manga compared to 90s and
Oh
current,
yeah, because I
there's a
remember
real
when I was
difference.
really really young, when I think it was J. Scott Campbell that did Wildcats, right? Like that one off that I always wanted more of. But then after he got popular like that, everybody tries to emulate J. Scott Campbell for a lot of things because that's what sells and it's really good.
Did he do a one-off? I don't remember it.
It was the one off of Wildcats.
Really?
Yeah.
I gotta find it.
Not Wildcats. There's oh my gosh, what was the name of it? It was the one where they had the holographic armor that looked like different
I thought that was
animals.
Wildcat.
It-
Cool.
think
Was
that's
it?
what it's
Well,
called.
there's Wetworks, where there's
well,
Wildcats,
Will's Portasio's Wetworks.
Wetworks,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, and then there's
You
Let
Wildcats,
make me look it up.
Wetworks.
I got my iPad right here. I will look it up.
Yes, please, because if there's a J. Scott Campbell Wildcats, I want it.
Death Metal Hero says Campbell did Gen 13, so
Yeah,
that was his
Campbell did
book,
Gen
yeah.
13.
Wildsiders.
Wildsiders. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe.
so-
Wildsiders. That's what it was. Thank
Okay,
you.
there you go. Thank you, Luke.
Hollis, we
Yeah.
talked about
But he
food
did do
earlier, so go
covers
back and
for-
listen if you're hungry. That's all.
He did do a cover, I think. Though.
No, but I don't
Wildcats
have
was,
that Wildsiders. I gotta find it now.
Yeah,
I never
Wildsiders.
even heard of that book.
I never.
somehow.
Yeah, I didn't even know. And hey, like J.
He
Scott
did
is
do the
also-
cover we love, though.
Well, J. Scott is
Wildcat.
another one who
Yeah.
like stylized, but also one person who I think changed the way we look at manga definitely was Joe Mad. Because
Oh,
for sure.
definitely.
he
Yeah.
infused it. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
Image dudes, even while they were at Marvel, they were looking at like, Robotech and stuff like that. They were looking
sure.
at all
I
that
think
stuff.
they grew up with the same kind of stuff I probably grew up with. And honestly, like, you know how I said some people will say like Kirby's their influence or some of the more classic guys. Those Image guys, when they formed Image, those were the guys I was a fan of at the time. You know what I mean? So
Oh, without a doubt. Like, I mean, people who see my stuff, they look at Keith. They're like, yeah, I see Sam Keith all day. And it just like you get influenced by certain aspects of things. And now before I saw him, I was trying to emulate like the Kirby's or the Jim Lees and stuff like I was trying to do the regular house style at the time. And it really wasn't fitting. It wasn't until like I started loosening up and like getting more into what I do. And it came natural out that way, but it came out naturally that way because I gravitated towards that messier, scratchier thing. There's an artist named Derek Hess from Cleveland. Amazing stuff. He doesn't do comics. He's done a couple covers, I think, for like a Captain America book or something like that. But he mainly did like rock and roll posters for taverns and bars and concerts, and very loose, very sketchy. And that's always something I just gravitated towards. I like the energy of it. But and that's the other thing. Like with like you go back to Joe Mad. Like he infused that energy of the manga and that is that style in there and just straight into the Western style, and it just blew up. It totally changed the way everybody was doing things in the Western comic industry, and it's still to this day.
Isn't it
People
crazy
emulate it.
when something that you do actually affects the culture?
Yeah, it's insanity. It's insanity.
It's crazy.
Well, and speaking of which, I mean, the book you guys have, it's an underground like people like me, Inc. We all love Zen. Like it's
Thank
like
you.
it has affected the culture because for
awesome,
the underground people that collect, everyone knows Zen. Like I have Zen zines with like Jay Lee covers and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So everybody like is an underground culture phenomenon. It kind of is. And Steve, what kind of influenced your writing, like and stuff like that, and made you create certain aspects and come up with ideas? Like who were you influenced by when you were starting to learn like the writing side of things?
Well, the first authors I really dug were a guy named Gardner F. Fox and John Broome. They worked basically for DC. And these were the guys who, like the Silver Age Flash, that was basically John Broome, oftentimes Gardner Fox. Gardner Fox wrote all of the initial issues of Justice League of America, okay? And these are the guys, and like Adam Strange, right? These guys, they just blew me away. And then, of course, when Stan Lee got going with Marvel, and he brought that additional element of super reality, I'll call it, right? In terms of the dialogue and the content. So Gardner Fox, John Broome, and of course Stan Lee were the people who inspired me. Yeah.
Now, I got to
Oh,
ask
awesome.
this because I don't know. I'm more curious than anything else. How much influence do you think Kirby had on the writing of the stuff Stan Lee did, or do you think there was none?
Well, no. This is a question that's always asked of everybody, who's familiar with the industry, um, uh, because of the Marvel style, if you will, whereby Stan would basically write a synopsis and then hand it over to Jack, and then Jack would plot it out. Same thing happened with Steve Ditko
Steve Ditko?
in terms of plotting out
Mhm.
most of all of the initial issues of Spider-Man. But then, Stan came up with some really original dialogue, and
Mhm.
so it was a true combination of the two. The DC books were always a writer would write a full script, like Gardner Fox would write a full script and then hand it over to Murphy Anderson or Carmen Infantino, right? But
Mhm.
then what Marvel did showed how
Mhm.
important a element of creating a book the artist would be in terms of essentially plotting it out, and occasionally adding details that were not in the original synopsis. Barry Windsor Smith did the same thing with Conan, right?
Mm.
So yeah, so I mean, it's just a great thing. Like, I love working with Bill because I'll write something and then Bill will just go with it as he is inspired to be. And what's better than collaborating with somebody?
That's the fun of it. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the fun of it.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask that. Like, what is the work ethic
Mhm.
like with you guys, or the work process? What is it like? Is it the Marvel style? Because that is how Ink and I work. Actually, I mean, we both will plot out, like, okay, page
Mhm.
1, page 2, roughly what they're going to do, and then I just draw it. And sometimes I'll even change we don't even have a panel layout. Like, I just like, okay, he's saying this and thinking this. I can do it in 4, or I can do it in 2, and I just go with it. And then Ink's like just colors it, and then we go back in and write the dialogue. What is your process like for you guys, and how you're working on your projects?
Yeah, well, the way I work with Bill, and the
Mhm.
way I work pretty much with any artist on any book I work on, I do write a full script, but it's very open.
Mm.
I've seen scripts by various writers that are so densely written. It tells you, everything's got to be shown from this person's perspective, from the street level to the color, everything. I write very simple descriptions, okay, and then just let the artist go with it. So I do write a script, but
Mhm.
it's a very open-ended script,
I,
right?
I,
Phil,
I
would you say?
really like it because it's almost like you're writing a movie script. Sorry, I got a little bit of echo.
You're okay.
Oh, okay. It's like you got a movie script and he's letting me direct it. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I want to hold the camera here from this angle. No, I want to hold the camera down here so I can
Right.
see that. So I get to move the camera around where I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And as far as getting the flow of the imagery that I really want to, what do I want to see? What do I want to see? And then Steve's back there directing. It's like these are the plot points that need to happen. This is the dialogue that needs to happen
Yeah.
within this space. And it's really collaborative that way. It gives me a lot of latitude, but also we're really sticking with the structure that he set up. But there's still so much room to play with in between, so it's really good.
Well,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
To me, the artist is akin to the director of a movie. So screenwriter writes a screenplay, but then when it gets in the hands of the director calls the shots quite literally, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the way I
Right.
feel. That's the way I like to work with an artist.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the better, because playing to everyone's strengths. Like, you have, especially if you have, like, there's some artists who do need, like, the Alan Moore writer who, like you said, the street has 15 cracks in it, the window panes it. Like, some artists do need that. They need they need to be told. But then playing to the strength of, like, Bill is fully capable of dictating what he needs to do to make a bigger impact. So,
and you have to understand that Steve and I have been bouncing ideas back and forth and working with each other since 1993,
which is impressive.
Which is
Wow.
nuts, to think that if we've been doing this for that long.
which is
My
dope.
whole existence and some change.
Well, I was gonna ask you, Kat. Whenever you work on a project, like, how do you prefer? Do you prefer like somebody to just write out a full script like that? Do you like when somebody's like kind of vague and like, here's the dialogue, and maybe they're yelling, and now you can just have fun with it? How do you like to go about it? Like, what's your preference?
Because of how many different types of people I've come to work with, I honestly don't mind either way if it's something collaborative. If it's collaborative, I am a total chameleon. I just mix to whatever is going to bring out everybody else's strengths the most. That's what I enjoy doing. But when I'm doing things on my own, or if I have a lot more say of what's going on, then it's usually something very similar. Like there's the skeleton of the script of like the broad strokes of what's going to happen. But then once you get pen to paper, the paper fights with you the whole time. So you're just like, okay, like this actually feels better if I made it longer. This feels better if I made it shorter. This can go out completely. And then actual dialogue gets written like usually a lot later in the process.
Like I tell people, like whenever, like I only can relate off of what Ink and I do because I wrote my own thing before, so it's just me, so I kind of knew what was going on. But when Ink and I work, I kind of prefer to know what, like, we have the Frog G, so I kind of prefer what Frog might be saying. It's not indefinite, but he's like, if he says like, oh no, then now I know what expression I'm working with. It was just like Frog is upset. I'm like, well, I don't know what his face is doing then. He could be
all
upset
those
in many
general
different ways.
things are definitely, they need to be there, or just the art and the dialogue won't work together. Because I'm working on something, like I've worked on lots of projects where the dialogue of the script that I'm working on, it's like, because I'll be coloring. I do a lot of coloring for lots of people. So it'll say where it's just like, oh, you know, they're scowling, but their expression in the art is just like, and it's just like, this doesn't feel right.
That ain't really it.
Especially for me, like where it's like, whoever's writing the script in the beginning has like, you know, the general idea. And then the artist has a lot of power once they're actually making it visual. But then I have a lot of power too as the colorist to then amplify whatever's going on. So if somebody's angry, I can make everything angry colors, reds, all of these things. But then if the smile is like that instead, it changes completely what people are going to just see off the bat. So the collaborative effort is absolutely insane with how much we have to juggle with each other.
Without a doubt. And to me, having that cohesive collaboration just flow, it makes for the best kind of book you can ask for. And like there is that big debate out there, and it goes around, I would say maybe every 6 months to a year. What's more important, the art of the writing? It's like, well, okay, in all actuality and reality, everybody, it's both. You need to have.
You can't have one without the other. What are you talking about? It's
like what's more important, the salt or the pepper? Like I'm just like, bro, we need both. Like I don't.
Well, and the thing is, like, I debate this with our friend Hockey quite often, and like when I talk about writing as in dialogue, he's talking about writing, like, you know, writing the script and plotting and everything like that, which is writing. It is writing, but you can still do a silent comic, but you still got to write. You know what I mean? The things behind it, the plots, the angles and stuff like that. But you do need both. But the thing is, you need both. What makes for the best comic is the quality of both. You want, like, you could have a really dope artwork and like look at any early Image book. The stories were garbage. Like they just were. They weren't the best, but the art was fantastic. Like you pick up the artwork, you flip through it, like this is eye candy. It wasn't the most amazing, groundbreaking stories they were ever coming up with. But then you get books out there that have like okay artwork, but the story, like read any Claremont, any Alan Moore, any stuff like that. Whoever art is on the project, it works, but you're there for that story. You're there to read it and just consume, and it gets you back. And that's what you want. You want both of those combined, and just to have it. And that's what you guys built. You built like Zen has lasted as long as it's lasted because you have the quality of both. Like it's always been there. No matter what's going on. So. And it's just a great project. You guys are a great team. Now, as far as because we'll get to the campaign, but I'm curious. There's the three of you. Is there an editor on the book, or is it you just like, hey, you show it to Bill or Kat? She's like, look, this word's spelled wrong. Or
like all three of us. All three of us.
I'd say we're co-editors. I'd call it.
Yeah, I think we're very much. I mean, we've been working together for so long that we really do treat each other like partners.
Right.
In a collaborative effort to get things done. But Steve being the writer and with all the editorial experience that he has. I mean, I would defer all the edits to Steve.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know.
Yeah.
Oh
So-
yeah, Steve has a lot of final say because it's more your baby, Steve.
Yeah, right.
So we
Well,
definitely
yeah.
like respecting that. But I know that if we were to come up with something, it was like, hey, this doesn't like make sense or something like that. It's very easy to just talk about it.
Yeah,
Right.
well,
That's the canon of Zen, which since it essentially came out of my head, I guess I'm the ultimate arbiter, but I'm pretty easy. In the world of comic books, there's a lot of latitude. How many characters have died and come back to life? Or Sergeant Fury is first a Caucasian guy, Nick Fury, and then he's Samuel L. Jackson. So, there's a lot of room for innovation in comic books.
Sure.
Oh, without a doubt. And like you said, it's been in this since the 90s. What was the, I don't know, inspiration, or like what kind of made you think like this is gonna be, I have this idea? What popped in your head that made Zen a reality almost?
All right. Well, as I always warn people that interview me, I can talk for too long on any of these subjects.
I don't have a time limit, sir.
Okay, so all right, so I got to give you this story, which of course Bill and Kat have heard innumerable times because we've
That's
been
okay.
on
They can
a lot
go get a
of,
slice of pizza.
things together. All right, so here's the origin of Zen, right? So my first published stories were these black and white horror magazines called Psycho and Nightmare. They were similar to Creepy and Eerie, but they were published by a company based in Manhattan called Skywald, right? So what would happen is you'd go into their offices and you'd hand in a brief synopsis of a story, like a one page, right? You could give them as many synopses as you wanted. Then what would happen is artists would, periodically go into their office and they'd look at these stories. And if they sparked to a synopsis, then Skywald would hire you and pay you to write the script. So the first script that was picked up by an artist that I wrote was called Sleep. And the artist was Jeff Jones,
Oh.
who was an amazing artist. He had that strip, one page in the back of National Lampoon every month called Idle, or Idle, Idyl, right? And so he was the first artist that drew one of my stories. The second guy was William Michael Kaluta, who did The Shadow and everything else, and he did a story of mine called The Cosmos Strain. And then I also worked for this other company called Countrywide with these real hardcore horror stories in magazines called like Witches' Tales. And like the first story I had published by them was called Eat the Flesh, Drink the Blood. So you get the sense of that, right?
Nice.
So, but one of the story synopses that I handed in to Skywald was called Zen, right? And no artist picked up on it. They eventually gave me back all of these synopses that weren't picked up. And when my wife and I moved to the state of Maine, where we lived for several years, many years later, I'm unpacking, and there's a suitcase, and it falls to the ground, cracks open, and out flies this one page called Zen.
Oh, wow.
Now, a couple of days later, I ran an ad agency. I owned an ad agency at that time, and I relocated it to Auburn, Maine, right? So a couple of days later, I'm going to visit a new potential client called Cody's Old Fashioned Ice Cream. Now, this was not just any ice cream. Yankee Magazine, like the arbiter of all things cool in New England, called Cody's Old Fashioned Ice Cream, quote unquote, the best damned ice cream in New England. So this was like really good ice cream, right? So I go to their offices, I meet the owner, and I see on her wall all these intricate pen and ink illustrations. I say, Nancy, who did those? She says, my son Dan. And Steve, if you will use Dan as the artist on all of our ads, like our newspaper and magazine ads, you can have the account. Not being brain damaged, I said, absolutely. And a few days later, I met Dan. He was up in his attic airbrushing stuff, and we got to talking, right? And the subject came up about the fact that I was a occasional comic book writer. Dan said, "I want to work on a comic book with you, Steve. I've never done comics. I always did." I said, "Dan, I found a story a couple of days ago. I think you might like to work on. It's called Zen," and that's how it happened.
Oh wow! So it's
So
kind
there's
of
the
luck of
Cool.
the draw almost. It just fell
Well,
out. It
yeah,
fell into
yeah.
your lap, one might say.
yeah. Well, I think my life basically has had a lot of serendipity in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's-
And sometimes the best things in life happen that way. Perhaps
Mhm.
most things in our lives, if you think back on your own life, happened like out of the blue, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
True.
totally
Yeah.
agree.
Well, even like even me and Inkspot's getting together, it was kind of almost a luck of the draw. It's just the way we met and the way we worked
Yeah.
on a project. We started working on a thing that never was supposed to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the way. It's the luck of the draw almost, and it's just great the way things work out sometimes. So how did then you Bill come onto the project?
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, that okay. So Zen was being published by Archie for a time. There's action figures,
nice.
there's video games, and then when those contracts were up, I believe Steve was looking for a new publisher for Zen, and that's when Don Chin basically introduced me to Steve and to Dan.
Very cool.
And we had been talking. Don and I had been talking for some time. We've been doing Parody Press for years, and we wanted to do superhero action adventure type of books, but I didn't want to launch it under Parody Press because I didn't want to confuse it with this isn't something we're having fun with like as a parody. This is something that we want to do as action adventure,
Right, it's more
sci-fi.
serious.
Right.
subject
So
matter.
actual original stories with the cool characters and stuff. We're not just having fun with
Right.
somebody else's stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we came up with Entity Comics, and Zen ended up being the very first property that Don bringing us all together, launching that first book, which also launched Entity Comics, is basically the beginning of how Steve and I and Dan all got together. And when we did, I was looking at at all of the material that was before, and I was like, I really want to do something. It's like I didn't see myself as toe to toe with the Image guys because they were starting at the exact same time, but I wanted to be in the same wheelhouse. I wanted to be in that same, so redesigning Zen, which Steve and Dan, thankfully allowed me to do. And redesigning is maybe too harsh or too much of a word. It's more like just changing his proportions and his tone. So he's much more in line with like an Image Comics, a ninja action, Deadpool, Spider-Man proportioned character.
Right.
Doing like some badass space adventures and bounty hunting and doing all of that. Zen before that was really geared for during the Archie series. It was geared more for kids. It was about the environment, very like a Captain Planet kind of approach to getting kids into, and some really cool comic books and really great stuff. It wasn't the approach that we wanted to have going forward, though. I wanted to have just some cool sci-fi bounty hunting badass adventures.
I should interject just so
Yes,
it's
please.
clear that the reason the Archie books had an environmental theme and were geared to slightly younger audience was because it was tied into the line of Zen action figures that came out from the Just Toys company and
Absolutely.
and the two Konami video games, the NES and the Game Boy.
Mhm.
All of those, that whole iteration of Zen was environmental. Okay. When we shifted over to Entity Comics and we had played out, in my estimation, the environmental thing, I wanted to go with a more, straightforward mainstream action adventure for slightly older readers. So we were simpatico on that.
Oh yeah, we were completely on the same page. I wasn't coming up with something that was out of the box or something that like Steve and Dan didn't want to do. I think we all came into it already wanting to do that same thing and that same approach. So that's why it was so easy to get it put together. And a lot of things came out of that other than, almost 40 years of drawing comics.
Were you
I'm
gonna say
sorry.
something, Angela?
Oh no, sorry, that's quiet. I thought, oh no, did I sound drop?
I heard.
No, I thought you were gonna say something.
No,
Angela.
I was going to
You were
mention
just
Oh,
talking.
because I'm thankful to Steve for letting me put my own characters into the
Oh.
stories, and all those characters I still own, which is awesome. You know, it's like
That's
always
cool, yeah.
eternally thankful for that. And that's the book that we're working on right now is actually bringing Nira X into an adventure with Zen again. Steve stars in this book.
Yeah.
So bringing it back together again is kind of like, you know, a 30 some odd year adventure of Nira X and Zen constantly crossing paths and
Yeah.
having adventures together.
Well, and actually, and yeah, that is going to segue into it. But first, I was curious. Do you think maybe it's kind of another serendipitous luck of the draw thing that Image was coming around this almost the same time as the revamping, one might say, of Zen, and it kind of made it more into the atmosphere and into the perspective viewpoint of collectors. That's when I kind of discovered Zen. Was
very much
around
so.
that time.
And plus, there was a really positive energy towards, wow, creators can actually do their own thing. They're not only doing things that the publishers want them to do. Because I've always felt like Steve and Dan and we were still doing our own thing. You know what I mean? It's like we were coming up in an Image, them breaking away from the big guys and coming up with their own, you know, derivative, but still their own characters and their own stories and their own thing. We kind of fed into that same energy. So I think a lot of the collectors that we had buying our books were just like, hell yeah. You know, it's like, you know, you guys are, you know, like doing this cool new thing. It's like yours, you write it, you draw it. And then they meet us at shows. And it's just like, you know, it's just a relationship between the creative team and directly to the fan instead of, you know.
Right. And it also helps. I mean, it was coming around the same time as Image almost, but you also got a couple Image guys on a few covers and stuff like that.
Well,
so that
the Jay Lee cover, which was the chromium cover, was just a key issue because that just, you know, that book sold like crazy. And by the way, you know, we also had Mike Mignola did a cover, and that goes back a few years before that.
That was dope.
There's the Sam Keith cover
and the Sam Keith cover, which you know, to this day, you know, people still want all of these books for, you know, collectability reasons. You know, so go on eBay, you'll be amazed by what's there.
I have, my friend. Anything Sam Keith I devour. So when I had to hunt down the 3D one and then the regular one. Yeah, I'm an idiot, but I'm a collector. What can I say? But
that's awesome. That's awesome, though, dude.
I love it. I love it all. I mean, I gotta stop. Look, I'm running out of room, Bill.
Plus, that was a check. That was a checkbox for me too, because I got to color Jay Lee's artwork
that
for that cover.
Dude,
that's before
Jay Lee period.
That's before I had a computer. That's before. That's all airbrushed and hand done.
Cat, have you you color when you color? Do you do digital, traditional, or like what is your preference? Because that's why I'm sorry to interrupt, Bill, but I was that.
No, you're fine. I do both.
Okay, yeah, because could you imagine kind of being back then and because computer coloring was kind of coming up around that time frame, and it was totally different back then. You had to like type in the coordinates of where you went.
Oh, dude, it was so bad.
I couldn't imagine that. Shelby tells us horror stories, dude.
My goodness.
Yeah.
It's like when I started coloring like professionally, I was ghosting and like scooting in underneath and like secretly working. I started when I was 13. So I caught
start the sweatshop early.
I caught the very tail end of a lot of things before a lot of the printers switched to like more modern stuff. Where like, you know how mad I was? Where it's like I had just learned how to like do traps and like figure out how to put the green behind the blacks and the thing, and then like a year later they're just like, oh, we don't do that anymore. We got more sophisticated printers, and I'm just like, no, I learned all that for what?
Yeah. Well, and Steve, you had mentioned when you went up into the attic and he's airbrushing. Dude, I tried to learn. I wanted to learn airbrushing. I started to learn airbrushing. I love airbrushing so much, and because of the way my eyes started going, my depth perception ain't there, and so I can't do it at all now. But that's like Geiger airbrushing, and that's really what I wanted to start doing and incorporating into things. Like I love airbrushing so much, and you can kind of do it digitally. It's not the same. It's not. The same.
Right.
Yeah, and there's something like ink spots. He's been doing oils and acrylics on pages for Frog. He can do it digitally and faster, but there's you lose something. It's the same with inking. You lose something whenever you're doing even just microns or whatever. Like if you do it digitally, you can make it look the same, but it loses a bit of a, I don't know, like an essence or some kind of connection. It's odd how that disconnect is there from that digital. It's a savior, don't get me wrong. I love digital stuff because it's all right there. It's cleaner. And
I like doing both, depending on what the project is, depending on what the piece is. But
I really want to ask you this, Bill. I don't mean to interrupt, and we're going to get to the campaign here, but I saw you were live last night. I love your live streams, by the way.
Thanks, dude.
I'm mad at you. Do you do an underdrawing at all?
No.
I hate you. Okay. No, that's not natural. Don't do that. What are you, Kim Jong-un? What are you thinking? I'm like watching you draw.
I'm not that close to the master. He goes straight to inks and like he just goes crazy. Yeah, no, he's a huge influence on my stuff.
But that's called a decade of SeaWorld caricature training, is what that's called.
Right.
Nice.
He was absolutely put through the ringer with that.
I gotta go. I gotta work there. No, I'm highly impressed whenever I saw it. I was like, dude, stop already.
Thanks, dude. Yeah.
And just so you know, it's like I'm in the background going, just like, hey, by the way, I hate you because you can do that so well.
Yeah.
Because I get very jealous about that because I need some time to like really think it out a lot more. And he's just like, well, we're here.
Yeah, I do wireframing.
It's practice.
I wireframe. Yeah, I do.
I think a lot of, especially the pieces that we do on the stream, because the whole point of is getting the pencils done so that way we can actually auction it off at the end of the stream. Yeah. So we got an hour to 2 hours just to get through the artwork. So I've gotten, pat myself on the back. My approach is that I constantly am working with the space I have left over. So I have a general idea for what the whole piece is going to be, but if the paper or if the pose isn't going that way, I've got to adjust. I've got to just go with the flow. If the shoulders are here, that's it. That's just where they are. So the rest of the character has to be where it's gonna be. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
it's still an impressive, like Kat was saying, like I got to do wireframes underneath, like, and I could do a loose wireframe and almost ink right on top of that. Like I can
sure
that, but I still need that placeholder. I need to know like where my things lie. Yeah, and
it's sheer repetition. Because how many caricatures would you say you were doing a day?
Let me see. Okay, I could do it in money because I'd never counted how many actual pieces. So if I was charging $15 or $20 for a person, and I was only taking home 30% of my take, and I was making around $2 or $3 grand a week in the summer.
Jeez. It's pretty good.
That's a lot of drawings.
That's a lot of drawings.
And the park was bought by Anheuser-Busch during those years, so it didn't matter. They were all drunk. It was fine. It was totally cool.
Nice. No, but you're not wrong. Like doing caricatures and stuff like that, it will hone your skill.
That was boot camp. It was literally boot camp. It got me in front of people. I got instant feedback from people that were actually like, if I really want them to give me $20 for this drawing, like they have to be happy with it, right? So
sure.
And honestly, for the first 6 months, I sucked. I was robbing people. They were paying me to get better, and it was nerve wracking. I wasn't used to doing it in front of people. I was young, and it's like so it was literally boot camp. And if there's any artist out there who's starting out, I would highly recommend putting yourself through the ringer.
Oh yeah,
and even if you don't plan on doing that type of work as your work, just for the experience of being under the gun. Having to do something quickly, having to get that instant feedback to it thickens up your skin a little bit because you get instant feedback. If they don't like it, you know about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they love it, you know about it too, and it makes your whole day.
Without a doubt. And speaking of things we love, it's done.
Woohoo!
Look at that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and we have been talking quite a bit about the birth of the character and the processes and stuff like that, which I really like the kind of the background stuff, like how things work, like how you might write, like and let me ask you that real quick. When you're writing, Steve, do you listen to any kind of music, or is it? I ask this of like every writer. Do you listen to music? Is it like silence? What is your method?
Yeah, I'm a silence guy.
You're a silence guy.
Yeah,
There's a couple
I
people.
know
You got to think. You got to think.
I know. I would say the majority of artists who I know like to have music on.
Mhm.
I don't know if you do, Bill, though, because you're across the country from me. I don't sit
It-
over you, and I don't know.
It depends. It depends. Like if I'm drawing in something adventurous, maybe I would just want to listen to movie soundtracks. I want to be in that vibe while I'm drawing
Yeah.
something adventurous, right?
Same with you, Kat.
It goes back and forth because sometimes I'll just like wake up at 3 a.m. and my brain just has an idea and I'm just like, and I just draw for a couple hours in just dead silence. But
yeah.
if I'm curating a space, it's kind of back and forth. I can zone out really easily. Like there could be like something crazy going on and I'll be in my own space.
Yeah, I like to ask because I love music. So I ask of any creator who comes on. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that my
love
caveat.
music, but it distracts me too much
With
from
writing,
that
yeah.
thinking process.
I like classical music when I'm writing. I gotta have
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, classical is good.
I'm a big classical music person,
if-
definitely.
If I'm writing actual dialogue, I can't listen to music that has lyrics in it.
Yeah,
That-
right.
That
Yes.
throws me off. Like
Yeah.
if I'm drawing and it's basically if something's already penciled and I'm inking it, oh yeah, I could listen to like whatever music, get me in a good mood. Totally cool. Like we could listen to podcasts, it's fine. But if I'm writing, my brain's got to be in it. So it's like movie soundtracks, classical music, anything like that is awesome.
Yeah, and Luke and I even talked about like he even says like and I agree because I'm the same. Like whenever you're plotting out and like planning out the page, like there's a lot of thinking going on. So if you're listening to a podcast or a book, you're distracted. You're not going to focus on that. But once you're inking,
You're not in it.
Once you're inking and cross hatching and just that's robotic. To me, that's fun. I love that part. But you can put on something that actually has like content to it, and you can just zone out and just listen to
when you're pulling things out of the ether, you need to be concentrating. When you're actually just working on like skill level and having fun with something physical, then you could spread out a little bit.
The muse works in weird ways. So we got Zen. You've been going around the streams promoting it, which you got to do with these crowdfunders. It's a different atmosphere these days rather than it used to be back in the day. And we got to all help each other and kind of get eyes on books. Like I said, backstage. I don't have the big, like I have a lot of subscribers, but I don't have a lot of viewers usually on the live streams, but any viewer is a good viewer. So please, if you're watching this, share this out. If you can't afford it, please share it out and somebody else might like it too. Or back today. I backed because like I said, I'm a fan. So
thanks, dude.
Oh yeah. Hey, I love this stuff and it's fantastic. So we have the three people that worked on this book. So, but this is kind of a little bit of a different thing you guys are doing, right, with Zen, because you're incorporating your other character, right?
Yeah, we're crossing over Nira. Actually, what's happening is Nira is joining Zen on his adventure. So Zen is in the middle of this bounty hunting situation that he's in. So we're just bringing in Nira X as because she's bounced into him before with other bounty hunting adventures here and there. So she was like the perfect character to bring in and kind of be his sidekick, assistant, as it were.
So let's get into that real quick with Nira X. How did that character come about?
That character came about. There was a lot of discussions back and forth when we were first working on the very Zen number 0 for Entity Comics. That was our premiere issue that we worked on together, and there was a lot of elements that were just like this is perfect. The only thing that's missing is science fiction, fantasy. In my brain, like, where's the hot chick? You got spaceships, you got the aliens, you got the danger, you got the monsters. Where's the princess? Where's the hot chick? But we didn't want to introduce a princess. We didn't want to introduce a damsel in distress. Wow, let's introduce a bounty hunter who's like up there in the same profession as Zen in this crazy situation that he's in. So that's how Nira came about. It's like she was a bounty hunter. She was introduced on the very last page of issue 0, and then she continued being a recurring character in that whole series and in a bunch of other series too, because she was helping Zen through this adventure and assisting him in the story. So the response that I got from having the character in the book is what led to her spinning off into her own book. So I was actually working on Zen and working on separate Nira books at the same time for some time. So I'm just grateful that people like the characters, but that's how she came about. You know, we needed an element, and she emerged from the ether.
Now, let me ask you this. She first appeared in the last page of number 0. Is that her first appearance, or is that her cameo? And then her first. Now,
no, because she has dialogue and everything. She actually speaks for a little bit, and she takes on the mission that she's sent on.
So then, going by that logic, everybody out there on YouTube, which this is true, Spider-Man 299 is the first Venom appearance.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree with you. Absolutely. So, yeah. There's no doubt.
Without 300 looks
300 just sounds cooler.
300 sounds cool. The cover's so awesome. It's iconic.
Right.
Are you trying to awaken Shelby? Is that what's going on here?
Okay,
Shelby, where are you?
Man over there.
Say it 3 times, they'll probably show up.
I'm sure he's lurking, like scowling, petting Kit Kat with like a finger and like.
I want my signed ramen.
Yeah, he's gonna sign you all the ramen. But like everybody has that. Like even Wolverine, Hulk 180. Is his first appearance. He appears in the last page.
That's the first appearance. The first appearance is the first appearance. Even if the cover wasn't like the banging cover for that event or something like that, it's because obviously the 300 cover for Spider-Man, that's an iconic cover. It looks like something, you know, that would be a page, like a chapter turner. You know, you wouldn't think the cover that was $2.99 would be the one where it happened, but that's just where it is. That's
and so there you go. So if you want your ex's first appearance, get Zen number 0.
Zen number 0.
Yeah, that's the first one, and that's great that you're also expanding your universe then, and like in introducing new characters and stuff like that. So back to this project here. What is the synopsis? What is the elevator pitch? What is the gist? The gist.
Yeah, this is my favorite Zen story that I've ever written, which means for the 38 years that Zen has been in existence, I've written about over 100 stories.
Wow.
Okay? And this is my favorite. And why? Well, because it's the most exciting, involved, convoluted, fun story that I could ever come up with. That is completely centered in the bounty hunting genre, hence the title Bounty Wars. There are a ton of bounty hunters in this story. And why? Well, there are what happens essentially, okay, and you have like the quick synopsis. At the very beginning in issue 1 of Bounty Wars, Zen encounters a guy called Jackson, who is a bounty killer. Okay. Now, a bounty killer is an actual type character in the bounty hunting genre. He's a guy who, after he say it's a wanted, and you got to bring him in alive. It's either dead or alive or dead, right? So, what a bounty killer does is, no matter if the person's supposed to be run in dead or alive, they kill that person, and then when they bring their carcass in, they explain to the magistrate that, well, this person tried to kill me to escape, so I killed him. So what, even though they shouldn't have killed him, right? And so Zen encounters this badass bounty killer, and Zen starts questioning his own role as a bounty hunter. He's beginning to wonder if he should stay in the profession, right? So what happens is Zen then communes with Master Sattva. Now, Master Sattva is, Zen's mentor, who basically brought him up on the planet Om, right? And Zen always communes with him in what we call the celestial garden of meditation. They both meditate, and then they meet in this ethereal area. And so so Zen tells him that, I'm thinking of getting out of this profession. Mr. Sattva says, look, you've been such a loner. Why don't you get to know some other bounty hunters before you make a final decision, right? So Zen does that. He goes to a bounty hunting lodge. And what happens is, while he's there, and we meet a lot of different bounty hunters, there's this war going on between 2 very powerful space lords. And what these lords are doing is they're hiring as many bounty hunters as they can to take each other out.
Nice.
That's where the shenanigans ensue.
Yes.
Right.
Lots of chaos.
So it's basically this huge war between different bounty hunters to see who can take out which of these lords first, right? And that's what Zen and Nira get embroiled in.
Exactly.
So that's the basic plot.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the cat
So-
mouse cover that you just scrolled.
Yeah,
up
yeah.
earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
I think I picked it up. I can't remember which ones I
Yeah, I
mentioned.
like that a whole lot. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
it came out great.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
Yeah,
she drew them really, really dope. I love it.
yeah. Oh, Kat's great. She's a great artist.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've tried to bid on a couple of your things on a Red Valkyrie auction, but I always get outbid. So, curse you. But yeah, no, it's a, like I said, I love the book because you got everything. You got like Western influence. You got,
Yep.
it's like Japanese samurai ninja influence. You got
Yep.
space influence. Like it's all in there, and it's just a giant adventure.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot
Now
of
look
fun.
at that
fun.
cover. That's Andrew Mangum's cover. Look at that one.
Yep.
That's so
Another
good.
great piece of work, right?
You got banger artists, banger covers, and a lot of high quality on the project for sure.
Thanks to
And unfortunately, like you have to go through these days a crowdfunder in a way in order to really kind of do this stuff because it's harder to get these things in the shops. I think nowadays, almost, especially with Diamond going under and all the things going on in the industry. This is kind of the way you have to do it. But it's also fortunate because Bill, like you were saying on the stream, we get to go directly to the consumer at this point.
Right, exactly. I mean, we're forced into this situation, but at the same time, it's a good situation because we get to listen directly to the fans. And I feel like instead of things have changed where I used to have a couple of books on the shelf every month, and I was very accustomed to that. And now I feel like we're part of a band, and every couple of months we get to drop a new album.
Yep.
Right.
And we make it a little bit more of an event, so.
But it should be understood that this is still a first we have a publisher, it's First Comics.
For sure. Oh yeah, this is all under First Comics. Yep. Yeah,
Right.
Zen is
But
published.
we do the kicks. A lot of books start their life as a Kickstarter because it's a good way to help fund and publicize the book.
Oh sure.
But we do have a publisher. We're
Not only that, it's promotion. Like this is also a promotional thing. Like you're, and it, to me, I look at crowdfunding this way. Okay, this is the way it should look at it. I think as a pre-order system because, like, we're working on our books. They're gonna get done. As far as I know, I'm Frog's gonna get done. I know Zen's done. Like these are gonna get out there. It's just a pre-order, in my opinion. It's like I'm gonna get in first. I'm first on the ground level.
This is a special event, but the book still comes out. The
without a
company's
doubt.
still gonna publish.
The other thing with the crowdfunders is a lot of the times people offer little features you can't get if you were to just go get it from the publisher after the book into the shop. So you get, if you want those special little bells and whistles and features, like who knows, the cat cover might be the only time to get it is this, and then after that, you get the regular cover in the shop, which is still cool. Hey, they're all great, but if you want that collectible factor, which I'm a nerd and I collect, I like to pick up certain things. And like I said, I view these as pre-order systems and promotional methods.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's especially with the age that we're living in today, with the technological age, digital age, like, and with YouTube, we all met. Like all of us artists are now getting together and be like, look, I'm working on something, you're working on something. Let's help each other out. And there's so many insanely good projects that I see out there. Like Angela and I will be like, can we have this guy on? Let's have this guy on. And we even want to break every now and then. So, but there's just so many. You don't want to. It's crazy. It's
you can only get the sticker set with the Kickstarter. See, so you got the sticker set.
Yeah, there you go. And there you go. So yeah, if you in order, and I like it and I don't at the same time. I'm on the fence with Kickstarter about it. I like Indiegogo and stuff like that because it comes out right away from my bank account. But I will say I don't have much money right now. I was still able to back this because next month I probably will have the money and then it'll come out.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I was like,
it works out.
Kickstarter, I can back it.
Right.
I don't have to worry about I missed it because I'm broke. But if I know it's coming out and I could save the money up, fine.
You got a little bit of a buffer before it's coming out.
My biggest thing with Kickstarter is I don't like backer kit. I hate backer kit. I hate having to worry about having to fill that out in order to get my thing. Right. But other than that, it's the platform almost to be on if you want more eyes on your IP. So.
And also, you get more of a kickback too on Kickstarter versus.
From what I heard, you get a little bit more of a kickback.
Yeah, which is always nice.
No, and this is the you guys are you plan on going through other crowdfunders, or are you just going to stick with Kickstarter for now?
Right now, Kickstarter. I've got some separate projects that are not related that I'm going to try Fund My Comic, but it's for the intention of learning how to use those other platforms. So I want to learn how to use Indiegogo. I want to learn how to use Fund My Comic. So I've got some books that are like low risk personal books that I'll put out through them, just so that way when we do a crowdfunder through those other platforms, then I already know what I'm doing for the most part.
And you actually bring up the point as to why I kind of haven't gone to Kickstarter. I started with Indiegogo. I know the back end of it, and having vision problems, I like structure and I know things are.
Sure.
I like that, and I don't know where anything is on Kickstarter when it comes to setting up the campaign. So I'm like, man, I gotta like get my magnifier out and zoom over everything, and it's just gonna take forever. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. But Ink and I do maybe plan on doing something on Kickstarter, like maybe like a frog omnibus or something like that on Kickstarter. We'll see what happens. But just go through the nuts and bolts and the bells and whistles and figure out how everything works, because a lot of it is not as intuitive as I would like it to be. But once you figure out how it works, then it's like, okay, I just know where those things are now. Yeah. Well, I like that this is on Kickstarter. Like I said, Kickstarter gets more eyes, and I really want this to have more eyes, for sure. More people. Like I said, if you're watching now, please, you don't have to share the stream out, share out the campaign. It's pinned to the top. Please back it. We are going to go over everybody's favorite part of the show.
Real quick,
no, I'm talking.
Okay. K-Pop says hi.
Oh, hi, K-Pop.
K-Pop, what's up?
I just said Luke was saying that shops are hesitant to order anything that isn't the big two or bigger indies. Always frustrated me while working the LCS.
That's another reason we have to go crowdfunding, because I totally understand the pressure a local comic shop would have taking a chance and taking a risk on a book that they're not really sure their customers are going to buy. It's like, it's a juggling. You're playing chess. So
at the same time, I get it. You're right, but you don't know what's going to really be a hit if you don't take a chance.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword. Right. So
like you said, I get it. But what's up?
Oh, the K-Pop just chimed in that Luke that a few of her shops are huge into indies, and they even have a section for local creators. I just think it's the size of the shop, because I know when I went to the shop in Dayton, which had a great selection, they had a lot more of the the top two stuff. So
you're not wrong, Angela. It does depend on the shop. I know Ink Spots had a shop where it was like just all mainstream stuff. It didn't matter. My shop at the mall, it's called Comics and Friends. They're big under the local scene and indie comics. Like they help me out, but there's other artists in my area who they help out.
It's all case by case, because it depends on what their overheads are, depends on what the risk assessment is, depends on what their budget's looking like, how much can you risk on certain funding this or funding that. So there's a lot to juggle, so I totally understand.
Even like there's a book called Kanto. I don't know if you ever heard of Kanto. It's supposed to be getting an animated movie and stuff like that, but that guy is local, and it kind of boomed out. I'm not saying it's a local IP, but they were strong in supporting him and what he was doing, and it wasn't like a big publisher that published the first few issues. So you never really know what's fully going to hit unless you take that chance. But do you take that chance, or you just keep rolling with what's kind of making you you're right, Bill. It's a double-edged sword. Speaking of swords, we got tiers with swords in them. Everybody's favorite part of the show, the tiers. I mean, you have to know what you might want to back, I always say.
Right.
And since Jason is blind, Steve or Bill or Kat, if you could help me out with the tiers.
Oh, yeah, I'll be happy to. We can start at the top. We've actually simplified the way that our tiers are set up. Okay. So what we have is we have a tier for each individual cover. Plus, the first tier starting off is just the PDF, just a digital PDF, and we'll stuff it with as much imagery and material as the project is actually producing. So you get a nice full PDF. But each tier is each individual cover, or we have two bundles. That's basically like a one of everything kind of situation, because everything else that's on the campaign is going to be in the add-on store. So we have a sticker set, we have a print set, we do have original artwork from the campaign and from the interior of the book, and it's all in the add-on store. So if you pick the individual cover that you would like to have, then you'll get your pop-up menu where you can just pick and choose Subway sandwich style,
Yes.
which little things you would like, and how many of those things, assuming that it's not a one-of-one type of item like the original artwork.
And you know what? That I like a streamlined tier system where it's like you said, like, you know, you pick it's the covers and you got a couple big things, but you can customize. And I think people actually prefer to customize what they're getting rather.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so there's one tier. This tier, the 8th tier, the Ultimate Collector's Boss tier, that came with some original artwork, the covers for the issue that were by Kat and myself. So that one actually, I was super happy that it went away like in the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
But the tier right before it, tier 7, we call it the Run It Through the Garden, my man, the tier. And it's basically one of everything. So it's one of each of the physical covers. You'll still get the PDF. You get the sticker set, the print set. And we also have original sketches, 7x10 sketches by both Kat and myself. So for each character, either in black and white or in color, and each sketch will be completely different from every other sketch. And so like if you order like the full color Zen sketch, you're going to get one Zen sketch from Kat, one from myself.
That's cool.
And that's the way each of those little packs go. So
nice. That's dope. And like I was saying, it is nice to have like a customizable thing, but it is also nice to have the, hey, you know what, guys, don't worry about it. Here you go.
One button. Let's go. You know, it's like, exactly.
And like, these are trying times. And if you can afford that, get it. I highly recommend it. If you can't, hey, we understand, please, you know, pick up the book though. Cause like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's got lore to it. Like you can, even if, and then you like this one, you could go back and get in the history of Zen and like, you know, delve into the character and really get to know more about him and where he comes from. And like, I like this because it's an established IP. And not only that's an established IP with a history. And it's so cool. You know, you guys, Steve, you built a great character here, a very iconic character, in my opinion. I just wish more people in the wide view of everything knew of it. Like I said, it was a very underground niche thing that like if you like the Turtles, you kind of saw Zen then. You were like, oh, sword, awesome, you know? So
Well, it's interesting because on the one hand, in the comic book world, you could say, you know, it was sort of underground niche-y, right? However, millions of people have played the video game. Literally.
I remember the video game. I didn't have it, but I do remember it coming out.
And there were two of them. If you go on eBay right now and you want to buy the NES game, it's $4,500.
Jeez, dude.
Okay. So on the one hand, you could say in the comic book realm, we were sort of in the niche, but massive sales of the video games and the toys, which completely sold out, because in those days there were actual stores like called the KB Toys and Toys R Us. You may remember those.
Yep.
So and so, you know, by the way, there's one other thing I think is important to note, which is in the add-ons, you can get issue number 1 of this series, because this is for issue number 2. So people can still, you know, have the full set of all 4 books by just adding on number 2 when they order adding on number 1 when they order number 2.
And a couple of things also, it kind of like with the it being kind of like, you know, it was bigger in this area than this area. That kind of reminds me of Shakan the Forever Man. I don't know if you remember Shakan. He had a video game, he had all this stuff, but people don't remember. He had a comic by RAK Graphics. I love Shakan the Forever Man. Rick Saylor, like he kind of, and he's a local dude. But he kind of disappeared. He still does cons and stuff like that. But like Zen kind of reminds me of that kind of an underground cool factor like that, that I think more people should be aware of. And I hope people share it out. So, and not only that, let me ask, no sketch cover this time?
No sketch cover this time, just for issue 1. Yeah. We just did it for issue 1.
Oh, there you go. Did you already sketch it, Jason? Have you done
Negative. I might do a Samurai Priest Zen.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Oh,
I want to see it.
That is cool.
Yeah, so I just got to plot it out and figure out what I want to do. It'd be pretty fun to do. So, no, like I said, please, everyone, share this out. I'm a fan, you know.
Comic Journey is a fan. He says it's his favorite character to draw.
CJ, what's up, man? Good to see you, my friend. CJ's good people. Yeah, Zen is dope,
Mhm.
and
Thanks,
like I
man.
said, it has history. And whenever I saw you coming around and on the like, I didn't you obviously don't know of everybody in the YouTube scene, but then I saw Bill Mouse is on. What I can watch Bill Mouse draw, so like it's like I said, it's kind of weird. Like I met meeting Dan Fraga and you got Shelby and meeting all these like people. Like I met Bill Mouse. Like I mean that's so dope. And then I got to know Kat a little bit, and now I know Steve. It's just crazy how this works. Like I was a fan of all this stuff growing up, and now I'm talking to the people. It's cool.
That's awesome. No, I like where technology is letting us do now.
Yes.
I think it's awesome.
Would you say the pandemic partially was to help with this? I mean,
yes.
It pushed it. Yeah, it accelerated all of this. I think
it forced us to learn.
It forced us to learn.
You're not wrong.
To reach out and be with others.
Well, and not only that, like it also like I always said, like I was hoping for more, but it did spark a little bit of a creative renaissance because everybody was trapped inside.
Yeah.
So like I always wanted to draw comic books, and I was more or less doing like art, you know what I mean? Like more artsy fartsy type stuff. Like it was all pen and ink, but I was still doing like watercolors, and there was weird wacky stuff. There was no rhyme or reason to it. It was fun. I love doing it, but the pandemic hit and I'm stuck inside. I'm like, oh, I will start doing a comic now. So it wasn't if the pandemic never happened, we all were stuck inside. And then after that, I met Dan Fraga, I met Luke, I met Playboy, and those are just all I met Christopher John, like great people in that one stream. And then I'm like, oh, there's other this is actually part of a crowdfunding, group. Yeah. And then I met Shay and Cy, and then it just steamrolled. Yeah. And now I'm hanging out with people that created one of my favorite underground indie characters. So it's just crazy cool. And like Kat said, we learned from it. I learned how to like more about making a comic. Like I didn't know all the nuts and bolts. I knew some. And so like you learned a lot of stuff, and there was a renaissance, a little bit of a boom. And it's great.
And there's more to come, like Luke says. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So who's to say there wasn't an upside to the pandemic?
Yeah,
there are some for sure.
There's silver linings to everything. There's there's music. There's a lot of bands that came out because they were just stuck inside and stuff like that. So there's silver linings to a lot of negativity out there. And I'm all about negative. No, I'm just kidding. I'm all about the positive. I try to push good vibes.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. I'm all about the aspartame, which Luke is in the chat. He loves the aspartame.
I just thought of aspartame when you said negativity equals aspartame, and
Luke loves it. And you know what? Don't let him lie to you. Whenever we're hanging out backstage, that's all he talks about.
Pandemic is fun.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, man.
Angela, is there any last questions in the chat? Or do you have any last questions?
I did get a book, a Zero book. I can't remember where I went to a con and I got it, and I was excited because I saw you were the artist.
Oh, cool.
Vaguely familiar with the character. I remembered when I just started watching CG, there was someone who had the cosplayer. I guess there's a really well-known person who dresses like your character, dresses like her. And anyway, it was just weird. I had a moment and I bought the book, and so I'm going to read it. I got it pre-moving, but it is on my book. I plan. I am a comic book reader as of 22. Thank you, pandemic. 21, I think. But I will definitely be checking that out and backing this project.
I have one last question. We'll go around the room for it. We'll start with Steve. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Any superpower, what would it be? The ability to read people's minds.
There you go. Dangerous one, my friend. Very dangerous. Yeah. Your butt doesn't look fat in those jeans. Yes, it does. Very dangerous one, sir. Nice. I like it. Kat.
Probably like a healing ability.
Yes.
That way I could just like do any sport and I don't have to worry about breaking my wrist.
Oh, yeah.
Very specific wrist. Okay.
Yeah, because I can't draw anymore.
So true.
There's a lot of things I don't do because I'm scared of hurting my drawing arm.
Yeah.
So if I could just like have super healing and I'm totally fine, then I'll just like, there would be way more things that I go out and do. Where it's just like, oh, like I'm gonna go learn how to skateboard for real now. Like, yes. But I never learned because I'd always fall off. I'm just like, I can't do this.
And it's funny you should say that because at my job, I pick up heavy objects, and I picked up a box wrong, and I tore my rotator cuff in my left shoulder, which is my drawing arm. So not only your wrist, but a lot of people out there don't realize how much of your shoulder you use when you're drawing. So it's not fun, everybody. So you're good. And I'm a healing factor person too. And that's what I would have, mainly because then I would be able to see. So, but Bill, you.
I'm selfish. I would have the power to give myself any power I wanted.
All right, Dr. Manhattan.
You see what happened?
That's like dial H for hero.
Because sometimes I want to be Wolverine, but I don't want to feel the pain. So Superman's got a little bit of everything, but I want to fly. But it's like I don't know. My mind changes too often.
So no tattoos.
That's
for
Dr.
you?
Manhattan right there.
I got just one. Just the one.
Yeah,
we match.
There you go.
Oh,
that's
right.
The cat's mom has the Batman tattoo.
Yeah, I have seen it when you were drawing. Yeah, so I was gonna say, if you're very indecisive on superpowers, tattoos would not be your thing.
Yeah, right.
Well, I got plenty of one to grow up on.
Can I ask a Normie question real quick?
I thought we were done.
No, okay.
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Angel.
No, is there anyone that's had a superhero of dream, like a superpower superhero with a power of dreams?
There is Nightmare from Marvel Comics.
Okay, yes.
Sleepwalker is in Marvel Comics. There's some DC ones. I'm sure. I'm not a huge. I'm with Kat. I'm a Batman guy. So
I like Batman too. But
I'm not.
Batman is my favorite all time.
Or you can even consider Scarecrow, kind of like that. I mean,
it's
dreams,
more like drug induced, but
still. But there are characters out there that do have like a dreamscape.
Actually, I remember
there's
that.
A character named Dream.
There is a character named Dream. Yeah, and Sandman.
Oh,
yeah. Sandman would go into that.
There aren't any, there's no Freddy Krueger comics out there, are there?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about
There's so many Freddy Krueger comics.
Well, I've never actually seen a Freddy Krueger comic.
Really, dude, I watch Astonishing Comics. They do art auction or comic book auctions. They have like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street comics up for sale all the time.
Because I've seen individual pieces of art, but not actual comics. I was like, oh, wait a minute. It's like,
they did to Freddy Krueger what they did to a lot of like everything for Alien versus Predator, where they're just like, everybody loves it, so just keep shotgunning as many things as we possibly can.
Although
Freddy Krueger, the mug, Freddy Krueger, the doormat.
I do want to see. I haven't watched the Predator animated movie yet, but I do want to see Badlands. I think it looks cool. I don't care if there's a CG Predator. I don't care. I think it looks dope.
Where are the Freddy Krueger bed sheets? That's the thing that I think needs to be made.
That would be cool.
They're all like specifically cursed.
You're kind of asking for trouble if you get Freddy Krueger bed sheets.
As long as you don't put like the pillowcase on, you'll be fine.
There you go.
Just don't fall asleep on it. Just don't fall asleep on it.
Yeah, sleep on something else. No, this was fun. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks to the
chat.
A ball. Yeah, Angela, thank you for co-hosting and monitoring that chaos.
For sure.
Yeah. I'll try it again.
I'm gonna hit this button right here. That's the wrong button, Angela. It's this one.
Long day kill.